All right, testing. All right, cool. Part 110, hazardous material public sector training and planning grants. 101, purpose of the 105, the scope of the 107, 110.7, control number under the Paperwork Reduction Act. 110.10, eligibility. 110.20, definitions. 110.30, grant application. 140, 110.40, activity eligible for funding. 110.50, disbursement of federal funds. 110.60, cost sharing planning of the training. 110.70, financial administration. 110, procurement. 110.90, grant monitoring reports and report record retention. 110, 100, enforcement. 110, 110, after grant requirements. 110, 120, deviation of this bar. 110, 130, dispute. All right. Purpose. This purpose set forth the procedure of the review. First, with the grant of the public sector, the grant public planning training with the support of the emergency handling of the training of the state of the Indian trainees of the local community deal with the head of the material emergency, particularly with the involvement of the transportation. These grants will enhance and implement the emergency plan of the Community Right to Know Act of 1986. 110.5, the scope of the parts of the of the state of the Indian tribe with the name of the program, the requirements of the public sector training, the planning grants with the support, hazardous material emergency planning with the training effort, the requirements contained with the Title 49 CFR Part 18, under uniform admission of the requirement of the grants, cooperative agreement, so the state and local government apply with the grants issued under this part, copy of the same with the Office of Management budget, circulars reference of this part available over the HEMUSA grants manager pipeline and his material safety administration U.S. Department. You have the transportation East Wedge building, 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast, Washington D.C. 2059001. 110.7, the control number of under the Paperwork Reduction Act, the Office of Management budget, the control number assigned to the collection of the information of the ends 110.30, 110.70, 110.80. 110.90 and is 21370586. 110.10. Eligibility, the proper part of the shape of the Indian with the tribe of the shape of the may apply with the planning of the training with the grant of the federally recognized Indian train. Tribes may apply for the training grant. The 110.20, the definition of the define the 12 with all the terms described and defined with the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 5102 with the U.S. in the statutory meaning of all the terms defined with the Title 49 CFR Part 118 of the Management Budget Circular A102 with respect to the administrative requirements of the grants and you define with therein with the other terms that you part of defined as followed the allowable cost of the meaning of the cost of the eligible responsible necessary allocable project permitted with the appropriate federal cost the principal approved of this grant with the associate administrative means for the associate administrative behalf of the material safety pipeline has been material safety administration budget prior period meaning the period of the specified with the grant agreement during the project manager may expand with the obligation of the project fund the cost review means the review of the evaluation of the cost of determining a reasonable allocability and allowability in the Indian country meaning the Indian country defined in Title 18 U.S. Standard Code 1151. The section defined the Indian country as all the land within the limits of any of the reservation of the jurisdiction of the government in understanding of the issue of any patent or any patent including the rights of the way of the running through the reservation of all dependent Indian communities within the border of the United States, whether the original subsequent acquired of the territory thereof, whether without limits of the state of the all Indian allotments and the Indian tribes to which I have not been extinguished and include the rights of way of running through the same Indian tribes made tribe the federal recognized the Secretary of the Interior of the under Title 25 U.S. Standard Code Federal Relations 272 with the 2 Local Emergency Planning Committee. The means of the committee appointed by the State Emergency Responsible Commission over the Section 301 of the Emergency Planning Committee with the Right to Know Act of 1986 with the Title 42 of the U.S. Standard Code 11001C. This includes the minimum of the representative for each of the following group of the organization like with the state local officers with local enforcement, firefighting, civil defense, the first aid, with the health, the local environmental hospital, with the transportation personnel, with the broadcast, the printing, the community groups, and owners operative of the facility subject to the emergency plan requirements of the national curriculum, the current curriculum required to develop under the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 5115, with the necessary to train the public sector, the emergency response, to prepare with the teams, enabling them to comply with the performance standard of the state within Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 5115C. Political subdivision. Maybe the country, the political city, the town, the township, the public and local public authority, including aid of the public Indian Housing Agency under the United States Housing Act of the 1930 with the U.S. Title 42 U.S. Standard Code 111401, a Tennessee with school district, special districts, interstate district council with the governments, whether they're not incorporated as non-profit corporation under the state law, any other regional interstate with the government entity with the agency of the instrumental with local government project of the mains for the activity that have to identify with the grant agreement, the project man with the means the state of the Indian tribe, the official with the designated of the Indian grant with the recipient agency, principal of the program, contact with the federal government, project officer, meet with the federal officer, official with the designated with the grant with the ASA program, contact with the project with the manager, with the project officer is responsible for the monitoring of the project period, meet with the length of the time specified for the grant completed, all of the work associated within that project. State Emergency Response Commission. or SERC, State Emergency Response Commission appointed by the governor of the state of the territory under the Emergency Planning Act of the Community the Right to Know Act of 1986. Statement of the work deemed needs of the portion of the grant that describes the purpose and the scope of the activity task that is carried out with the part of the proposed project. 11030 grant application. The application for the planning, the training, the agent grant, but shall be only usually should only be the standard application forms that provide for the Office of Management budget of the SF standard form 424, standard form 424A within the Paperwork Reduction Act of 1980, Title 44 U.S. Standard Code 3052. The applicants required to submit the original with a 2 copy of the application packet of the grant manager pipeline heads of the Material Safety Administrator of the U.S. Department of Transportation. East Building, 1200 New Jersey Avenue, Southeast Washington, D.C. 20590-001. Application received on before the January 1st or July 1st of each of the year, but will be considered in the cycle of the semi-annual review of the award process. Initial round of the review of the award process will consider the application to receive the one before November 15th, 1992. However, the continuation of application must include the original and 2 copies of the effective page of the previously submitted page of the bill information. With the information of the sick that currently do not have to be resubmitted, the application must include the following: application for the Federal Assistance for the Non-Construction Program, Standard Form 424 for the budget sheet, the Standard Form 424A with a single application may be given to both the planning of the training with the budget or for each of the entire separately on all budget sheets. For state's letter of the governing designated of the state agency for the authorized to apply for the grant with provide with written certification required to receive the grant for Indian tribe letter from the tribal government. Governing body of the Tribal Council with the effect that if the applicant is authorized to apply for the grant, they provide with the written certification required to receive the grant written statement if they explain with whether the state of the tribe assesses the collection fee of the transportation of the hazardous material, whether such of the assessment of the fees are used solely to carry out the purpose of the transportation of the hazardous material. Statement of the designated of the project manager for the provider of the name, position, address, phone number of the individual who is responsible for the coordinate the funding of the activities with other agencies and organizations. The project name of the statement of the goals, objective of the project design, long range plans, proposed grant, project budget, and here may be one with more year of the statement of the work with the support of this project. Both the project will describe the set priority of the activity tasks to be conducted, the cost associated with each of the activity, the number of the type of deliverable product to be completed, the schedule for the implementation, a description of major items of the cost needed to implement the statement of the work, and a copy of any of the cost of the price analysis that is conducted. Drug-free workplace certification application must certify the specified appendix C with the Title 49 CFR Part 29 that will comply with the Drug-Free Workplace Act of 1988, Public Law 160-190, 690, the bad title of the Title 5, the subtitle D for the 51 U.S. Standard Code 701 and 10 sequence. Anti-lobbying certification application must certify the specified appendix A with the Title 49 CFR Part 20 that no federal funds will expend to pay any person influencing and attempting to influence officers or the employees of any agency or member of the Congress, or any officer of the employee of the Congress or employee of the member of the Congress in Section 319 of the Public Law 101, 121, 31 U.S. Standard Code 1352. The Department of Suspension certification application must certify that the specified subpart of the G with the Title 49 Part 29 that it will not make the award of the permit of any of the award at any party of which is just debarred with the suspended or otherwise excluded from the ineligible participation in the federal assistance program. Planning, in addition to their requirements specified with the paragraph A of the section, include the eligible state applications must include the following in their application package: a written certification of the state of the client with Section 301 and 303 with emergency planning and Community Right to Know Act of 1986, include the brief explanation of how the client has been achieved. The written statement that specified the aggregated expenditure for the fund of the state, the exclusive of the federal funds achieved for the last 5 fiscal years of the developing, improving, and implementing the emergency plan of the Emergency Right to Planning and Community Right to Know Act of 1986, including examination specifying the source of these funds, written certification state aggregated expenditure that is defined the state and the fund for the purpose of the exclusion of the federal funds not fall below the average federal level of expenditure for the last 5 fiscal years. The application may not be claimed that any of the expenditures for the cost of the chairman of the written statement agreeing with the mess. At least 75% of the federal funds awarded available to the LEPC. Explanation of how applicants intend to make the such for the funds available to them to developing, improving, and implementing an emergency plan. The designation of the project manager, the contact with the coordinator of the plan funds under the program, a project narrative, the statement of the goal of the object for each of the proposed projects, including the following background statement that describes the applicant's long-term goals, objectives, with respect to the current abilities of authorities of the applicant, programs of the preparedness planning with the need to sustain and increase the program capability, the current degree of the participation intent, they assess the need for the regional hazard material emergency and response team, the impact of the grant will have on the program discussion, whether the application at programs currently know the intent of the past assistance assets transport foul of the material has material within the state and between the states and other states. A schedule of the implementing the proposed grant activity statement that describes the way which for the planning will be monitored by the project manager. The statement include indicating that all of the members of the state emergency response commission will provide the opportunity to review the grant application and training. In addition with the requirement to specify the paragraph A of the section, eligible state of the Indian tribe application must include following their application package for the state of the applicant room with the certification explaining with how the state was complying with the Section 301 and 303 of the Emergency Planning of the Community Rights No Act. A written statement is specifying the aggregated expenditure for the funds. The state of the Indian tribes exclusive of the federal funds for each of the last 5 official year for the training public sector for the employee with the respondent acts of the incident involved the hazardous material, including the explanation specifying the source of these funds, a written certification of the applicant's aggregated with expenditure as defined by the state of the tribe. Funds are for the purpose of the exclusive for the federal funds will not fall below the average of the level of expenditure for at least 5 official year. The applicant may not claim any of these expenditures for the cost-sharing purpose of the state applicant with the written with the state of the agreement to make at least 75% of the federal funds awarded available purpose of the training public sector employed used in political subdivision statement. The application made elected to pass all of the sum of the portion of the grant of all political subdivisions for the purpose of the application must include the specific explanation on how it intends to meet this requirement. This is the primary point of the contact coordinator with the training and funding of this program. The dedication of the single respiratory repository for the copy of the course of the material delivered under the grant was specified in statute 11090 of the set part. A project narrative statement of the long-range goals and objectives of each borough's project include following the background statement is describing the current hazard materials training program. The training audience will include the number, the level of the training, and the accredited programs for each of the level of criteria required for the advance to the next level. The estimated total number of the person to be trained under the proposed project, the ways to which the training grant will support the integrated delivery of the training to meet the needs of the individual geographic resource, the need of the time consideration, local correspondence, appropriate statement describing how the proposed training project will accommodate the different training needs of the rural versus the urban environment, the impact of the grant with the national curriculum will have on the program. A statement describing how the national curriculum will be notified the trained public sector employment at local level to respond to accident with the incident involving hazardous material. A statement describing the way of which the effect of the training will be monitored by the project manager, including not limited to the examination, critiques, and instructional evaluations. A schedule of the implementing the proposed training grant activity statement indicating that all the members of the state of the Tribal Emergency Response Commission were provided with the opportunity to review the grant application. R11040 activities eligible for funding. Eligible state applicants may receive the funding for the following activity development, improvement of the emergency plan with the required for the emergency planning of the right community rights and no act of 1986, as well as exercise which have the emergency plan with the enhancement of the emergency plan with include the hazards analysis as well as the response procedure for emergency involving transportation hazard materials, including the radioactive material, the assessment of the determining flow over the path of hazardous material within the state between the state of another state and Indian country with the development of the maintenance of the system of the keep the information from the assessment of the need for the regional hazardous material emergency response team, assessment of local response capability, conduct the emergency response drill, the strategy associated with the emergency preparedness plan. Provision technical staff of the support of the planning effort, the additional activity of the associated administrative teams appropriately to implement the scope of the work for the proposed project plan and approve of the grant of the training of the eligible state of the Indian tribe for the active may reflect the following activity system determined the number of public sector employees or the political subdivision who need the proposed training to select the course consistent with the national curriculum. The comprehensive response training of the public sector for the employees designed and deliver the preparedness response training to meet the specialized needs and the final and assistance for the training for the trainer, the appropriate stuff of the tuition and the travel expense of the to and from training facility, the room and board while the training facility. Emergency response drill, the exercise associated with the training, the course of the test, and the evaluation of emergency the preparedness plan. Expenses associated with the training by a person, including the department that is agent for the instrumental of the state of the political subdivision thereof, the Indian Charter activities necessarily monitor training, including but not limited to the examination, critiques over the instructional evaluation provisions of the staff to manage for the training efforts designed to result in increased benefit to proficiency and rapid deployment of local regional responders. Additional activities the associated administrative teams appropriate to implement the scope of the work of the proposed project approved in the grant. Art 11050, distribution of federal funds. The pre-awarded expenditure may not be reimbursed. Reimbursement may not be made for the project plan unless approved with the grant award. If the recipient agency seeks additional funds for the amendment, the request will be evaluated based on the need of the performance availability of the fund. The existing grant is not a commitment of the future federal funding. 11060, cost sharing with the planning of the training with the recipient agency must be provided 20% of the direct and indirect cost of all the activities covered under the grant award program and the non-federal fund. The recipient may either use cash or hard match, in kind, the soft match contribution of the combination in kind plus hard match to meet the requirements in kind soft match for the contributions, or in addition to meets the means of that is required for the recipient of the grant award. The types of the contributions allowed there are as follows: any funds that from the state, local, the other non-federal sources used as an eligible activity defined in statute 11040, and in this part of the Delaware equivalent value of the eligible activity defined in 11040. This part provided the state, local, and other non-federal sources. The value of participation salary attendant to the planning of the training, the activity contained of the approved grant application provided by the state, the local, and other non-federal sources. The additional type of the in-kind contribution, the associated administrator deems appropriate funds of the matching purpose under any of the federal grant of the cooperative agreement that may not be used for the matching purpose funds expended by recipient agency qualified for the grant may not be used for the cost sharing purposes. Acceptable contribution for the matching for the cost sharing purposes must conform with the Title 49 Part 18. 11070. The Financial Administration must expend the account of the grant fund for the state laws proceed the expenditure for the expending the account with its own fund for the physical control of the accounting of the procedure of the state as well as the sub-granteers and the cost type of the contract to be sufficient. Permanent preparation of the report for the Title 49 Part 18 for this part would include the tracing of the fund for the provided planning for the level of expenditure for the adequate to establish for that at least 75% of the fund provided were made available to the local emergency planning commission for the developing and improving of the implementing the emergency plan with the tracing of the funding that provided the training to the level of expenditure for the adequate to establish at least 75% of the funds provided were made available for the provided were made available for the purpose of the trained public sector employee with usually public subdivisions. Permit the tracing fund of the level of expenditure adequate to establish if the funds have not been used in violation of the restriction and prohibition of the applicable statute. The final management system of the Indian tribe of any of the subgrantees must be the standard of the Title 49 CFR 1820, including the ability to trace the funds to provide the training to the level of expenditure for the adequate to establish for the level of at least 75% of funding provided where made available for the purpose of the training public sector for the employee for the using of the political subdivision. Advance shall be made with the state of the Indian tribes consistent with the Title 49 Part 1831 35 Part 205. The associated administrator shall be if these advance to demonstrate the need of which is determined on the case-to-case basis with consider the factor of the state tribal budget constraints and reduction in the account of the budget of the hazardous material activity to obtain with the advance of the state of the Indian tribe that must comply with the following requirements. Add a letter for the governor of the tribal leader with these needs of the requirements specified in the extenuation circumstance requiring that the funding of the advance for the grant. The maximum advance request may not be more than $25,000 for each of the state or Indian tribe. The recipients of advance funding were the most obligated to those funds within 3 months of the receipt. The advance, including the interest, will be deducted from the initial reimbursement state of the Indian tribe and say induction Indian tribes will have the allocation from the current grant, but the funds reduced will not be permitted to apply for the future grant funds until the advance is covered by the requested reimbursement. For example, $25,000 in advance of the personal cost of this advance would be deducted from the initial reimbursement into the year of the advance was made. To be allowable, the cost must be eligible, reasonable, necessary for the allocable to be approved the project within accordance with the Office Management Budget Circular 87, including the grant award costs and include prior to the award any of the grant are not allocable. The recipient agency is responsible for obtaining the audit in accordance with the Single Audit Act of 1984, Title 31, U.S. Code 7501, Title 49 CFR Part 90, Office of Management Budget Circular A120. Audits of the shall be made with independent audit in accordance with the generally accepted government auditing standard for the covering of the financial compliance audit. The associated administrator may audit the recipient agencies at any time. Alright, 11080, procurement. The project manager shall use the procurement demand proceed with the practice of the will reflect the applicable to the state law with regulating the federal requirements of the specified in Title 49 CFR 1836. Alright, 11090, grant monitoring and reports records retention. Grant monitoring. Project managers are responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of the grant subgrant with the contractual support of the activity. The project manager must monitor performance and support of the activities to ensure the compliance with the application of federal requirements. Achievement of the performance for the goal of the monitoring must cover each of the program function of the activity task covered by the grant. The monitoring and the reporting of the requirements for the planning of the training are contained within this part of the general grant reporting requirements for the specified in Title 49 CFR 1840. Alright, reports. The project manager shall submit the performance report for the compliance of the activity, which with the reimbursement being requested of the request of the grant of the final performance report is then due with the 90 days final performance reporting due with after the expiration determination of the grant. Project manager shall submit an original 2 copies of all the performance reports. Performance reports for planning and training must include the comparison of actual accomplishment of the state of the goal of the objectives established for the performance period they reached but not achieving those goals and objectives. If applicable, the project manager shall report developments of the events that occur between the required performance reports and the date of the significant impact of the day of the public training, the planning and the training of the activities, such as the problems, delay, the adverse condition that is with impair the ability, meet the objective of the grant, the favorable developments where they enable the meeting of the time schedule the objective sooner at least some cost than the anticipated procedure, but than beneficial result of the original plan. Financial reporting acceptance provided with Statute 11070 with the Title 49 CFR 1841 should be supplied with quarterly with the standard form 270 with the request of the advance of the reimbursement to report to the status of the fund of the project manager shall report separately on the planning of the training and record of the retention within accordance with the Title 49 CFR 1842 with the whole financial and procedure, problematic the supporting the documentation status, statistical record of the training material, the other documents were generated under the grant shall be maintained by the project manager for the 3 of the day of the project manager, the subpart to submit the final financial status report. Standard Form 269 with the request of the band for the reimbursement. Standard Form 270, the project with the manager shall designate the respiratory single point of the contact with the planning of the training with them, both of these purposes of any litigation claim, the negotiation, or any other action involving the records that have been started before the expiration of the 3-year period. The records must be retained until the completion of the action, resolution of all of the issues that arise from it, until the end of the regular 3-year period, whichever is later. All right, 110-100, enforcement. If the recipient agency fails to comply with any of the terms of the award with whether the state of the federal statute of the regulation of the action with the state plan and their application to notice the board elsewhere, a non-compliance action may be taken within specified in Title 40 CFR 1843. The recipient agency may appeal with any of the specific action specified in Title 49 CFR Part 18, cause incurred with the recipient agency during the suspension after the termination of the award of any award or not liable, or the associated administrator authorized within the grant awards may be determined in a whole part or in consent with the recipient. They agree with that upon the effective date by the recipient upon the written notification. 110. After the grant requirements, associated administrator will code without the award upon the determination of the applicable administrative action required with the work of the grant complete with the accordance with the subpart D with the Title 49 CFR Part 18. The project manager must submit all the financial performance for the other reports of the required with the condition of the grant within 90 days after the expiration of the termination of the grant this time. Frame may be the extent of the associated administrator that has material safety for the cause. 110-120, deviation from the municipal recipient agency manager requires the deviation from the non-statutory provision of the municipal associated administrator will respond with the for the request of the rating and the appropriate of the decision will include the grant of the agreement. Require the deviation from the part 110 that must be submitted with the grant of the manager pipeline hazardous material and safety administration U.S. Department of Transportation East Building 1200 New Jersey Avenue Southeast Washington DC 20590001. 110-130. Disputes should be resolved at the lowest level possible, beginning with the project manager, the project with the officer. If the agreement cannot be reached, the administrative PHMSL will serve the dispute resolution of the official. The decision will be final. And that was part 110, hazard material public sector training and planning grants.